everybody. My name is Patty Ruland. I am with Engage by Sell. Thanks for taking a little bit of time out of your day to join us. We're going to be chatting with maybe a new group that you'd not expect to be chatting with, but city department managers. And they're going to talk about how they use text messaging and mobile in all types of situations. I am joined today by, once again, my name is Patty Ruland. I am joined by members of the Engage by Sell team, Daphne Harper. You want to say hi, Daphne?
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today.
And Lester Rosales.
Hello.
And Molly, do you want to go ahead and advance the slide? Just to give you a brief overview, Engage by Sell is the umbrella company of Guide by Sell, Give by Sell, and Train by Sell. And we basically provide all types of mobile technologies to just about any type of industry or organization imaginable. We've been around for about 15 years or so, and we have clients not only here in the US, but also internationally. I think that number is probably even a little higher now of the 4,000 clients worldwide. So let's go ahead and advance the slide, Molly. Again, myself, Daphne, Lester. We're also joined today by Doug Kinney. He's from the city of La Quinta in California, as well as Chanel Armour. She is from the city of Newark in New Jersey. So we are literally coast to coast today. And thank you all for taking a couple of minutes to join us. We appreciate your participation. So just a little bit about the city of La Quinta. Riverside County, again, like I said, in California, in the Coachella Valley. Just under 43,000 in population, and that's a little bit of an older statistic. And Doug, you can correct me if I'm wrong about that. It is the leading golf population in the US. And I was surprised because I actually live in Arizona, where I always say it's like there's a Walgreens on every corner. Here, there's a golf course on every corner. But La Quinta's got us beat by a mile. 25 golf courses, 6 parks, miles of hiking and biking trails, a million things to do. I was just watching a reality TV show, and I probably shouldn't even share this because it's a little embarrassing, but one of the cast members has a house in La Quinta, and they were all there for a weekend celebration. So anyway, let's go ahead and advance the slide. Everybody, I want to introduce you to Doug. And Doug, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, the organization, what you're responsible for, and so forth.
Sure. Yeah, thanks. And thank you for the excellent introduction. Not to put you in the spot, but I will say we have a lot of reality TV shows being filmed here, which is exciting. We have the Madison Club, so we got Kim and Kanye doing their shows. Then we got the Bachelorette at one of our hotels. And then we've got Real Housewives. We got a lot going on, which is nice. The only irony there is I don't know why people love this place so much for golf. It usually is 120 degrees in August. So I've lived here my whole life, and I don't know how crazy people can be. So our city manager's office is different, and I think it would be beneficial for people watching the webinar to know why this kind of tech is so useful. Is we handle economic development, we handle affordable housing, we handle waste management, we handle legislative analysis. We handle IT. We handle a lot of different things. We've got our hands in a lot of pots. So because of that, this type of technology is something that we've been really trying to get our hands around, because we also are in a community that, based on all those golf courses and all that exciting tourism that we receive, we're a huge tourism-based economy. COVID absolutely decimated us last year. We also have the unfortunate reality that after COVID, there was a large rise in our entire community, the Coachella Valley, against STVRs. And they didn't want short-term vacation rentals out here. The residents actually in a couple cities have demanded that they're abolished. And because of that, that is some scary times that we're living in, because that's a huge TOT and revenue driver for our communities.
Absolutely. Molly, why don't you go ahead and advance the slide? Whoops. Looks like we went a little too far. Okay. We'll get that fixed in a minute. So how is your communication today with, you know, the teams and the people that you're working with and so forth, or maybe as opposed to what you've done in the past and what you're looking to move towards in the future?
Sure. I mean, for us, one of the biggest potentials for communication is we want to have resident engagement. Obviously, there's people that can look at instantaneous text messaging or the ability to call someone and have that kind of direct access to city personnel and their residents. That's always meaningful. But the difference here is, you know, it's not just graffiti. It's not just saying, hey, one of your sprinkler heads is broken. For us, that meaningful engagement with residents comes down to, we don't want to lose that, as an example, that meaningful revenue generator, which is short-term vacation rentals, because of public outcry saying, you know, it's really hard to get someone on the horn at 2 a.m. because these out-of-towners are making too much noise on the boombox, and it's disturbing my sleep. And as a resident in this community, I think that they should just be abolished outright, because you're letting no good people like that come into our community. So we see that, and we're saying, look, we want to be able to provide you not only 24/7 help so that you can get someone out there, but we also want to provide you the ability to take video. We want you to be able to describe the situation in real time. And we also are trying to work on implementing things that will help the residents feel like when they're communicating with us, it's in such a meaningful capacity that then we can start to broach that subject and have a meaningful conversation that gets away from black and white of, let's just remove this because it's a hindrance, to let's do creative problem solving. Let's actually have a dialogue and let's see how we can improve things. And honestly, it's been very beneficial, because when we bring that up, our residents go, wow, you know, half the time when we're complaining, it's because we just want to be heard. It's not because we feel so vehemently about this. It's actually more like we just want to get acknowledgement that you understand our issues.
And do you think that text messaging is kind of the newest way to do it, or the, you know, I mean, I always have, if I wanted to make a comment about something or complain about something or praise something, you know, I'm sending to an info@ email. And I don't know if anybody's reading it or anybody's getting it or what the situation is. Do you think that text messaging is going to kind of give people a little more confidence in the process?
Well, I mean, let's be honest, you know, we're in the 21st century. Our marketing team is one of the best marketing teams out there, and we love them to death. And the reality is they get sick of going on Facebook and seeing negative comments that are received at times. However, it's that kind of resident engagement where we've heard, oh, I wish I could respond, because sometimes it's not just about the negative comments, it's about getting real info out there. And that's where the text messaging comes in. I mean, when you can have that kind of direct response or instantaneous, and someone's able to see, oh, hey, the other day we had someone ask us outright, like, where's the nearest hottest restaurant? How do we find this and that in our Old Town area? That's not part of the city. That's a private development, but we're able to provide them or empower our visitors with that kind of information and residents. And it really has elevated things. It's really made people feel better. Then on top of that, like I said, it's 120 degrees out. I know that you got 911, but it's nice when someone goes, hey, just want to let you know the water fountains broke out here on this hiking trail, or hey, there's some snakes, or, you know, something like that. It really is important. And then what we can do is take that real-time information and blast that out to anyone who's signed up or interested. And then on top of that, we can also use that to, it's a outward expanding opportunity. It's not just texting. Then we get that on all of our media channels or social media. Then we can get that into our radio ads and other things and say, sign up, because you're going to get that instantaneous communication.
Right. That's what I love about what you're saying, Doug. You're kind of seeing the big picture. I mean, it all starts with some type of catalyst, whether it's communicating better or, you know, providing information or something like that. It usually starts as one small little thing that's the catalyst, and I love it when people kind of see how it can expand and all the capabilities that mobile technology can bring. I mean, most people think, oh, it's an app or this or that. I mean, they've seen things in a preconceived industry or something like that. But they forget that, they communicate with their friends and family through text and through sending pictures and images and so forth. And, having it more, let's say, friendly. And again, nobody's having to go and check their email if they're even checking their email. Stuff you're sending out is not going into spam folders. It's getting right into the hands of the recipients that need it.
Well, and that's probably the most challenging but most rewarding part, which is being able to, whether it's done through just simply people signing up or cataloging or organizing them in certain user groups because of their geographic location within our own jurisdiction. But I mean, a good example is just the other day, we had a trash truck on fire. Someone tried to dispose of hazardous waste in the improper way. And unfortunately, flammable materials got out, and it actually caused a shutdown into a very heavily populated area. And what we wanted to do is immediately get that safety out. And, utilizing 21st technology really is the way of the future, because I'll tell you right now, if you're a resident and something like that happens, and thank God no one got hurt, but when those issues arise, do you want to read about it in the newspaper tomorrow? Or do you want to be able to hear about it in real time and go, I better avoid that road, or I have family that lives nearby, that kind of issue.
Absolutely. Anything else you'd like to add to, your thoughts and overall view of mobile technology?
Overall, I just say that it's a worthwhile investment into the infrastructure that you're going to bring to your community, and out here in the city of La Quinta, what our goal is that we're trying to do everything right. We want to always be improving. And so, we just love chatting with other communities. So if anyone ever has any thoughts or questions, reach out to us, because that's what we're here for. We want to always be doing something better or smarter. So.
Excellent. We'll throw Doug's information in the chat window. I think it was also at the beginning of the presentation. I should have mentioned earlier, this presentation is being recorded. We'll edit it and clean it up and send out the recording. It usually gets emailed out first thing in the morning.
Awesome.
So Doug, you're welcome to stay on if you want. Otherwise, again, we appreciate you taking a few minutes to be able to share your experience with our participants. So our second speaker is all the way from New Jersey. Chanel has joined us. She is with Newark Public Works. And Newark Public Works is basically 3 divisions: building inspection, engineering, and maintenance. Not a huge staff, but 37, dedicated, talented superstars. And they basically support commercial and residential activity.
I'm sorry, that's incorrect. We have more than 37 dedicated staff members.
How many do you have?
I'm like 37, that's not right.
Those are
300 employees here.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for correcting that. I appreciate it. I was going to say, now I'm originally from New York City, so I'm familiar with Newark, and I saw that number and I'm like, 37 there. You guys must be like magicians over there if you're.
Oh, no. We can't possibly move that much refuge for 37 people.
Anyway, we'll get that fixed. And so basically, you guys handle everything. And we've included your mission there, which is great. Why don't you tell us a little bit, and you guys are one of our newer folks. Yeah. Why don't you tell me a little bit more about the organization and what brought you to mobile?
Okay, so I currently work here in the director's office with Director Smith for Public Works. We handle everything from refuse collections to motors, making sure that all of our vehicles are up and running. Street sweeping, we handle street sweeping, graffiti, public buildings, making sure that all of our buildings for the city are up and running. All of our health buildings are clean and hazardous free. So we do a little bit of everything here. We just changed over into a new director July 1st. So we recently changed over our roles, which is good because sometimes change is necessary, right? So we moved over, we have a new leadership role in place, or things are starting to look over. So because we're having changes in administration and also changes in our refuge collection, because we was having refuge collection at night, so now we switched to days. So this is when Engaged by Cell steps in, because now we have to notify all of our residents, as well as our council people, as well as the union reps. We have to notify everybody that we're changing over from nights to days. So how can we possibly do that without help? How can we get everything out? So now we're in the 21st century. Everything is turned over to technology. So
In
we
the
have to reach
past,
out.
how would you do that, Chanel?
In the past, when what we have still done is we mailed out mailers to everyone. So we mailed out mailers. We had people go and put door knockers on people's doors so that they know that we're changing over, because some elderly people still don't want to get cell phones, and that's okay. So we have to still mix it up a little bit just to make sure that everybody is notified that we're going to make this change. But definitely with Engaged by Cell, you guys have definitely helped us out a lot, because with Engaged by Cell, with everybody uploading their phone numbers, we're able to differentiate which resident is in zone A and which resident is in zone B. So we're able to split them up into the zones so that we can notify one zone, hey, listen, we're not going to have street sweeping this week because it's a holiday. Or listen, make sure that you're putting your recyclables out this day because it was a holiday yesterday. So Engaged by Cell really helps in that medium, and it's that buffer with getting the information out there. We noticed that we do post things on our Instagram and our Facebook, but because we don't have enough followers and the word just doesn't spread as fast, it wasn't as effective. So that's why we switched over, and we gave Engaged by Cell a try, and it actually worked out very well for us.
Yeah, I mean, I know, so I talk about it all the time, and some of the folks on our call might have heard me speak on our other webinars. It's always important to keep your texts relevant.
Yes.
I don't care what's going on. I live in zone A. I don't care what's going on in zone B unless it's on fire and it's coming towards me.
Exactly.
I don't want to know about the change in the pickup in zone B or something like that.
Right. So it really helps us keep things organized as well. So, we're on the up and up over here.
How did you start promoting it? What methods did you get to have people to start to opt in?
Okay, so what we did do is we had everybody opt in because first of all, we had a job fair. So we did the job fair first. Everybody is going to opt in with a job fair. It's COVID. It's still COVID is the way a lot of people don't have jobs. So we got a lot of people to opt in with that. We had 2 job fairs. So it was like everybody swarmed in. So it's easier for us to differentiate the two and make sure that we had enough residents' phone numbers. And even if they wasn't a resident, they were calling for someone else to get a job. So it was easier for us to just put all of that information in. And also with our new call center, our customer service unit that we have, we're getting a lot of calls going through there. So they're putting things in the spreadsheet, which is allowing us to separate it out. So it's really good for us because we're able to, because we need to separate the two. That's why it's so important for us, because it's able for us to differentiate who gets what and who doesn't get what. So it's just easier for us.
Right.
And even though it's new to us, it's efficient.
The feedback so far has been pretty favorable. People
Yes,
appreciate
it has been. It has been very favorable, and the system is very easy to navigate on that side. Even with adding pictures, if you don't want to add pictures, if you want to add that little QR code, it's very easy, because we could even put the QR code on our Instagram, and people are able to just obtain the information there. So
Right.
it goes along to how you want it to. So I like that you're able to build it to what your expectations are as well. And then you guys are also helpful as well. Any questions, they're always answered.
Yeah, I have to say, we do have a great customer service staff here.
Yeah, so
They're working hard to keep everything running.
so that makes it even better. you know.
Absolutely. Well, Chanel, I appreciate you joining us. Any final words about, any hesitation about switching to mobile? Any words of encouragement for the participants on the webinar?
Do it. I'm telling you, you will not regret it. I'm telling you, it helps if you're looking for just organization, if you're looking for your residents to get that information at a fast pace because it's urgent, this is where you need to be.
Excellent. Well, Chanel, again, I appreciate you joining us and sharing some information with our group. You're welcome to stay on if you'd like. Otherwise, thank you again. We appreciate you.
No problem. Have a good day, y'all.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
So Molly, you want to go ahead and advance the slides? So we've heard from some different organizations on how they are currently utilizing it. Next up, I'm going to chat with Engage Myself very own Daphne Harper. She's going to talk a little bit about use cases and obstacles and challenges and solutions for different types of park and recreation areas. Once again, I'm happy to have Daphne with us. So go ahead, Daphne, take it away.
Hey, thanks, Patty. I really appreciate it. And I think we want to back up just a little bit. Yeah, just to give you a quick overview. I've been talking to a lot of Parks and Recs customers and prospects. And I just want to say, just as public safety, public works, and certainly city management are all very essential services, so are Parks and Rec. They provide some essential services for youth in terms of recreation and activities, especially during the COVID time frame, and certainly for the entire family. But not only that, when businesses are looking to relocate and determine where they want to, position their own new business locations, Parks and Recs become an essential solution for them as well. And certainly as we look at preserving our natural resources, Parks and Recs do an excellent job of doing that in our communities and in our region. From a social responsibility standpoint, let's face it, we need Parks and Recs for our mental and our well-being health. It's just critical. And I would say that applies to people from all walks of life, people of all ages and abilities, even maybe more critically vital for those who are disabled. So for this reason, I think it's really important that we kind of consider, what the challenges are that Parks and Recs are experiencing and sort of how mobile technology can really give opportunities to address those challenges.
Yeah, Daphne, I have to agree. Over the past, year and a half, 18 months or so, parks have been a lifesaver, I think, for a lot of people. Just being able to get out, even with the 6 foot socially distancing and so forth. I think ability to access parks and recreation areas has kept a lot of people sane, to be 100% truthful.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people are looking for ways in which to navigate those areas, even more so now than they were before. So as Parks and Recs administrative officials kind of look at what's happening, they're seeing a surge, an influx of people that really want to come out and explore a whole lot more often than before. So mobile technology is an excellent solution for that. Not only does it help to navigate, but it helps to educate. It certainly helps to communicate with and basically just stay engaged with the community members. So
absolutely. So why don't you talk a little bit about some of the challenges that these organizations are facing?
Sure, absolutely. So one of the big challenges for Parks and Rec are green initiatives. When you talk about parks they have green initiatives as a top priority, the community is really big on that, then you don't want to see things like substantial amounts of paper maps that are costly and are really bad for the environment flying around. Not only does this become an issue in terms of expense, but also safety. There was a time when you wouldn't think twice about taking a map from really anywhere, but nowadays you may second guess how many people have held on to that piece of paper. And in a pandemic era that we're all in, safety first, right, before all things. Other
Absolutely.
challenges, budgets, these are government entities and therefore their budgets are limited. So that impacts things like the replenishment of paper maps. It impacts staffing ability. So you may not have someone who can communicate information because your budget's really limited in terms of having resources on staff. Communication in and of itself is also in flux because maybe some of the programming and events have had to be delayed because you have limited capacity rules, because COVID's got, the social distancing in place. And so maybe you cannot have some of the programmings that were traditionally available to people. So I would say communicating that information and continuing the engagement is certainly high priority for Parks and Recs. The final bullet point is really important because when you think about the types of individuals that are visiting, from youth all the way up to their adults, at least 80% of them are carrying a smartphone, right? Right. So
Absolutely. And if it's a parent or a family and with small children, at least one of the parents has their phone with them because they're doing natural things. They're taking photos of their children and things like that. So they always have it with them.
Absolutely. And I actually think that 81% is very modest. I think that even higher percentage of people are carrying their phones with them. And I think that there's an expectation, quite frankly, that as community members, wherever we go, there's going to be a technology component there. So whether we're pulling out our phone to research the environment that we're in, or we're using our QR code to order lunch, on the menu. So these are the kinds of things that we're seeing pop up all around the place. And so it certainly would not be uncommon for Parks and Recs to apply that in their venue as well.
Absolutely. Molly, do you want to go to the next slide?
Okay.
So why don't you talk about some of the opportunities that are available through these great organizations?
Right. So one of the things that we talked about was, health and well-being. So obviously you might have fitness equipment that's on the playground, or you might have walking trails, hiking trails. So one of the things that we offer are audio, video, and text options that could be available to provide information or potentially a video at each station. There's also the ability to provide navigation through GPS mapping technology. So that's certainly a great opportunity to be taken advantage of. Also, back on the communication aspect of things, displaying facility hours and rules for the buildings so that in the absence of staff, people can get that information. Again, with the interactive maps, being able to navigate and have that location awareness feature also particularly important because it's pretty easy to get lost in an environment that's really, really widespread. So if you know where you are at all times using awareness location technology, well, that kind of helps. Well, I'm, 10 feet away from the next landmark, or I'm 100 feet away from the exit. It's very helpful for people, and I think comforting even for maybe seasoned people, I'll call them, who, get lost sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the example that's on the screen. So there's a park where I live that has this, not fancy equipment like that, but it's basically very rustic. It's like logs and cement blocks and so forth. And it's meant to do circuit training, but unless you know how to do it, it just looks like a bunch of stuff. So a little video showing you what you're supposed to do with that plank of wood with two round things on the ends and things like that is really, really helpful. And I think it enhances the visitor's experience. They know that they can go there and maybe, a lot of organizations aren't staffed as much. Being able to find the answers that they need on their own, I would imagine would be really helpful, for an outing.
I agree. I can't tell you that there's, a park that I'm aware of that's got this type of equipment that hasn't been there for long enough that it's been weathered. So you may not very easily be able to identify exactly what it's there to do for you, but it'd be great, right? If you could pull up your smartphone and scan a code or punch in a code and listen on an audio tour for exactly what the stuff does for you. So yeah, those are great options.
Absolutely. And again, you're cutting down on signage. You know, signage is expensive. Physical signs in parks. I mean, you know, it's not like you're taping a piece of paper to a storefront window. These have to be created for the elements, for durability, for many years. And they are not cheap. I mean, we work with a lot of botanical gardens and outdoor areas. These signs are expensive to produce. So if you can alleviate some of that cost by having it all digitally available or on somebody's mobile device, you know, again, that's just another step in going greener.
Agreed. And this last bullet point kind of points towards the option for kind of renting facilities that might be available. Pavilion is first thing that comes to mind because we are in that season where people are celebrating, you know, Labor Day is coming up, for example. So your family might want to have that option. Well, maybe you want to see that information kind of immediately. So things like, you know, text alerts or having a mobile app where someone can quickly pull that type of information up and maybe even reserve on the spot is really very helpful. So mobility as it relates to parks and recs, there's definitely a place for it. And there's just example after example of how people can find efficiency, information, get engaged, and just be informed in general.
Absolutely. Molly, let's go to the next slide. So why don't you go ahead and talk a little bit about, you know, some of the features, how to advertise it, promote it, and so forth.
Yeah, so this is an example of an alert for displaying the schedule of an upcoming game. So again, the schedules are in flux, you know, things are changing because our environment, that's just kind of where we are right now. And so when things change on the fly, a text alert is the very quickest way for you to get that information out because it's a short burst of information. People can typically see a text when they're multitasking, maybe, you know, making dinner or watching TV. You can still read a quick text message and you know then what's going on with the activity schedule in the ball field. That in addition to promoting and advertising events, and we talked about QR codes on menus, what about QR codes on buildings? You know, maybe your organization or your field has several buildings that aren't necessarily labeled. So you could put a QR code up and that way the person can identify not only what type of building it is, but exactly what type of courses or classes are being held. You know, we have a rec center nearby and there's a swim hall. And you don't always know when it's available for individual swimming because sometimes they're doing training. So it's a great way for you to, again, publish information that the public can easily get access to by using the device that's always in their hands, their cell phone.
And you're not having to worry about having a staff member on site saying, oh no, you can't go in, this is a private swim or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go ahead, Molly. So Daphne, thank you so much for your insight and knowledge into parks and recreational areas. If anybody would like some additional information, feel free to reach out to Daphne. She is our expert. Thanks, Daphne, for joining us today. That brings us to our final, oh no, I'm sorry, we have a couple more. Our final, we'll call it industry or organization type, which is libraries. And I have Lester Rosales of Engage by Cell with us here today. And he's just going to talk a little bit about how libraries can use mobile and some of the challenges they face and what mobile technology can help alleviate for them.
Thank you, Patty, for the introduction. So I spoke to some of our library clients recently, and I did ask them how bad they were affected by the pandemic, and they just expressed how bad it was, that they needed help in terms of communication, how they can spread out the news, and how they can inform people about what's happening or what's the updates for the library. So right now, they're also affected with staffing because as we all know, everyone may have lost their jobs or not even interested to work in a public setup. So sometimes they need to look for that right person. So for them to be able to do that, they would just need to go by using a mobile platform like us to be able to engage with them. And also, they don't have any other ways on how to inform people about special events, and of course, communicating internally. One thing that I've learned is that a lot of people who are borrowing books sometimes forget to return it. So if they remind people that their books are already past due via email, chances are they would never respond or they would not see it. So by using our text messaging platform, they found out that it's a much more quicker response and people avoid penalties on not returning books on time. So it really helped them a lot, especially during COVID.
Right, and I know libraries use us for a lot of different things. A couple of examples are on the screen. They could have a QR code where people can scan and complete a job application. They could scan a QR code or text in to find out about volunteer opportunities. A lot of people might not be able to financially support their local library, but they want to support it in different ways, either by volunteering or donating books. At our local library, they have volunteer readers. So they read to children, and there's different age groups and so forth. So being able to communicate with those volunteers and coordinate all of that via text message is pretty simple, right, Lester?
Yes, it is. And also one thing that they also expressed is that with the limited staff that they have in place, if they would need to reach out to 500 people to inform them about an update, they would rather have a platform like ours to be able to save time and send the message out effectively versus spending an hour or so trying to get the message out, which is really a pain for someone, especially if you're short staff. You don't really want to be in that situation.
Right. I know, and a lot of organizations have not quite yet gotten to embracing the technology, and they're doing like the phone chain, where they're literally dialing everybody on the list.
True.
One of the other great things is you can promote special events. So maybe if there's an art class coming to the library, or there is a readathon, or different other type of community engagements focused around the library. One of the other things that you're able to do is, and it's just up on the screen here now. So why don't you talk about some of the ways that a library can use mobile technology?
Sure, it's easy. It's an easy way to push text out about programs, hours, or special events, or even maybe COVID updates. And also, audio and mobile tours are self-guided and COVID safe, so we don't really hand them any device. They just use their own. Of course, mobile is a great platform to elevate your education and interpretation. Everything is something that you can find in the internet, and internet could be accessed through your phone, so it's a given. And of course, mobile membership cards. I mean, this is something that's already in play even before the we came into the digital membership card space. I mean, instead of issuing a physical card to your members, which they often lost or not really bring when they're going to have rent a book, why not have it stored on their phone so that it could be easily accessed? They wouldn't lose it. And it's just a better way of providing membership information. It's a more up to date technology, as we say it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks. That was great information. Molly, let's go to the next slide, and we're going to head back to Daphne to wrap this up. And she's going to talk a little bit about marketing and communications.
Thanks again, Patty. I think it's really important to emphasize the need for getting information out to organizations, to your audience, of various sizes. They may be customers, they may be employees, but engagement and communication is very critical, I think. And the best way for us to think about this is in the age of emails, which have a 40% and dropping rate of opening. And it takes 24 to 48 hours before there's an actual opening. So, when you think about that length of time and the critical nature of some information, it really is quite lengthy. Not to mention that text messages, they're very much intended for short bursts of information. So if you just need to send an update, an alert, email, quite frankly, just isn't the most practical option. Social media can certainly be a great option. If you've got someone who's savvy in all of those different applications, then that makes sense. But everyone, virtually, I would say 98% and higher, knows how to utilize and access text messaging. So it's very easy. It's something that's very accessible to most people. And we talked about this earlier, but there's really an expectation that there's going to be some element of technology for communication for most people, certainly the younger generation, but even for those who are, a little bit of an older generation, everyone has had to adopt a comfortability with communicating through technology, and text messaging is just a no-brainer.
Absolutely. And the speed and the immediacy. I know, Jackie, you and I were talking earlier this morning, and I'm like, when I want something, I want it now. I don't want it 3 or 4 hours from now. I want the information now. I want to be able to, digest it at my own pace or but I want it now. I know that sounds a little self-centered, but, I think that's the feeling pretty much with everybody, and expecting some type of technology to help me in getting what I want to get.
Absolutely. And, with our communication tool, the wonderful thing is that as you're pushing information out, there's even the ability to receive a response and have that dialogue become conversational. And this is, a great advantage, especially when someone's got a question and you don't want to wait for an email because of, again, the length of time that it takes for people to pick that up. But text, I'm going to be tempted to open that up almost immediately, no matter what else I'm doing. It's something that allows you to quickly send information, quickly receive information. And these days, with the ability to embed MMS content, really, there's just no limit to the type of engagement opportunities that you can have with text messaging.
And Daphne, why don't you explain to our audience, you mentioned MMS, the difference between SMS or regular text and MMS. Do you want to just give a quick on that?
So typically with SMS, it's literally just texting characters, and you do have a little bit of a limit on that, and that's in carrier imposed. But with MMS, you have a greater sort of complexity or layering where you can have videos and pictures, GIFs. So these are the types of things that make content more personalized, certainly more engaging. And again, with text messaging, because it's instant, people will automatically open that. They want to see that information, and they certainly want to have something that allows them to be responsive also.
Absolutely. Molly, would you advance the slide? Why don't you talk about some of the opportunities for mobile in marketing and communications?
So you mentioned the first bullet point, which is the immediacy of text messaging. You need to get something out to someone pretty urgently, and there's just no time to wait. A text message is the very best way to do that, and we know that all from our personal experience. Well, you can certainly transition all of those benefits into work as well. If there's an urgent message, the young lady from Public Works talked about issues of urgency whereby she needed the residents to be notified immediately. Well, instead of waiting to get snail mail and, fish through all of the junk mail and get that urgent information, a text message makes more sense. You have a broader reach, and you have the ability to get information out that's critical in nature. It's accessible. We talked about, again, most people have smartphones. Most people are very comfortable with accessing and knowing how to use a smartphone for the purpose of sending and receiving text messaging. So, texting makes things that are high priority just kind of get out there. It gets read. I believe the open rate is pretty high, 98%. It's concise. It's intended to be concise. It's intended for short bursts of information. So if you've got something that's pages and pages, sure, send an email. Maybe it isn't something that's very urgent if you need to send a lot of information out. But for things that require, you need to know, it's urgent, it's an alert. This is where texting becomes very appropriate, and it can be conversational because we have the ability to allow the two-way text time. And most people do trust text messaging. There is an element of privacy because if someone, unless they're standing over your shoulders, typically people are able to read text messaging with the understanding that it's privately being read. So that's certainly a benefit if you happen to send something that is of a sensitive nature.
Absolutely. Great points. Molly, go ahead and advance the slide. We're just about ready to wrap it up. Thank you all for joining us today for our session. We hope you learned a little bit more about how mobile can work in potentially unique type of industries. Once again, my name is Patty Ruland. I was joined today by Daphne Harper and Lester Rosales. We appreciate you spending, half hour or so with us. And if you have any questions, once again, this video, this session is being recorded and will be emailed out to you probably tomorrow. From everybody at Engage Myself, thanks for joining us and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.